Well, we have most of the logistics of the bike kind of complete. We've got all our components on. We've got a actual working chassis. We've got the brakes, we've got the shifters. All that stuff is working as we expect. We've got our cockpit is in good position. We've got our bags. We've got the clearance that we need. It's all ready to go. There's unfortunately a few more things that have to be done. And one of those things is, because this is bike packing, the idea is you have to supply pretty much your gear. You have to carry all of that. Your tent, your sleeping bag, any food resources, water between towns, stuff like that. Ways to get potable drinking water when you're not near a town. So this is kind of the machine that gets you from A to B safely, but also allows you to camp out, and it just basically, all your gear has to go on the bike. Well, because this is a small frame, even if it was a large frame, it would still be the same situation. But because this is a small frame, or really just because it's a frame, rather than putting water bottles in here like you normally would do on, say, like a mountain bike, where you're not doing bike packing, or even a road bike where you're just, riding around, one of the things that we would want to do is we'd want to have some storage space actually in the frame, a frame bag essentially. So in this triangular spot here, we would want to, create a bag that basically we can open up, we can stuff stuff in there, we can close it up, and we've got another storage compartment besides just these three, and besides just having stuff up here on the cockpit. So today we're going to begin looking at how do we make the frame bag, what size do we make, color, material, all that kind of stuff, and so that's where we are. So the first thing we have to do for making that is we need to get a template. We need to know, okay, what is this dimension, what is this, what is the real life scale size of it, where are straps coming across, where are any obstructions, where are our little bottle holders. So maybe if we want to have this bag so it secures down to the frame here, and it's a little sturdier, or a little rugged, more rugged, we can do that. So let's first take some cardboard, put it up against here, kind of get our template drawn out, figure out where the straps are and all that. Then we can go on to the design phase, where we start working with materials and sewing them together, creating zippers and straps and latches and all that kind of stuff. So let's go. So we've got our triangular area here kind of exposed, and because we have our front derailleur on this side of the bike, we have to put our template kind of on this back side here, and by doing that, we're able to kind of use some kind of material and kind of just sketch out our template. So what we're going to use for this is some cardboard. So we're going to just take some standard cardboard, put it on this back side here, like so. And essentially what we want to do is we want to kind of get it pressed up against here so that we can get a good template drawn out. So we would actually go through there and draw this out. So let's do that. So the biggest thing is we want to kind of keep this held in place, same place. So we want to kind of draw it straight and perpendicular. Because it's going to fit in there. And that's going to be a little bit tricky. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we want it to be pretty perpendicular to the frame itself. So we're going to continue to draw it. And it gets a little tricky when you get around these components, as you can see. But I mean, the basic idea is you want to be kind of perpendicular to the frame. You want to note kind of where the straps are then. So it's, it's not perfect, but at least will give us a kind of close representation. So one of the things I'd probably like to do after that is kind of get some just rough dimensions to make sure on it. So when I measure this way, I get about 17 1/4. One-quarter inch. Go from there to there. And then kind of go from down there. And I get about 21 1/8. And kind of a top measurement for the seat post there. And I get about 11 3/4. More like 11 5/8 really. Just say 11 1/2 actually, it looks like. So 11 1/2. So we get that. A couple things I gotta also look at is what is the width of the frame. So if we actually look, we're looking at about 1 7/8. I draw my bicycle. Just a rough idea of that. So it's 1 7/8. That's about 1 3/8. So kind of what I almost need to do is let's 1 7/8, and then that is 1 3/8. I think I said. So 1 3/8. This part here, it looks like it's straight round, so should be able to just say that it's about 1 1/2. Diameter. And then this part here, okay. That is about 2 1/8 or so. So for that one, two and 1/8 with height, and then the width. It's about 2 1/2. So it's about 2 1/2 wide for the base part there. So have our little drawing here. And that's about 2 1/2 wide. So, we got that. Other things we get to do is we've kind of identified where the straps are. So it seems like the straps are kind of there and there. We've got another strap that's kind of there and there. And then we've got a strap that's kind of right up at the top. And then a strap that's somewhere like here. As far as our bottle holder, probably just best to kind of get the dimension and just kind of go off of that, get a rough idea. So that one's about 7.5 and about 10. So if we actually measure it on here, it's about 7.5 and 10. And then we got to also look at where the bracket for the front derailleur is. And that one's about, it's about 4.5. So about 4.5 up. Once my marker's dying, that's going to be the front derailleur bracket. So we've kind of got a template of what we need. So I think from there, the idea is let's go start making some fabric and start to kind of design the bag out. Okay, so we took this and we actually put it in the bike frame, and actually, yeah, it was this way, where your down tube is here, and then of course cross tube, and then the seat tube. So we took that and we got our kind of dimensions and everything, and from that we want to make a little template, something that we can actually put in the bike and be able to put straight in there and be able to kind of get our strap measurements, where they are, figure out where our bottle holder points are, figure out where our derailleur is, and from that we can kind of determine how we want to cut this bag out as far as material and be able to start stitching together. So that's what we're working with. I got a piece, I had to cut a couple out just to get it to the right size and everything, but fits nice in there, nice and snug. Was able to get all these points kind of marked out, and now we're ready to start working with the material. Okay, so the next step that we wanted to do here is we're going to basically take this form that we've made and we're going to make some marks. Because what we're going to do is we're going to actually cut it out 1/2 inch wider, and we're going to take those pieces and basically stitch those two together for one of the side panels. Get some marks as we go around. So we got some marks here. Take some scissors. If you're going to cut, use good scissors. Never cut paper with your good scissors. Alright, so we're just cutting this out. Like I said, I'm leaving a little extra all around it. Take that out. So now we've got kind of a rough idea of the frame bag size. We're going to put that off to the side, we're going to do the same thing again. We're making some marks for this bottom piece. And it's around 3/4 and 1/16 or so. It's not absolute rocket science, close counts. And since this is a 3-inch wide part, I've cut it with a 1/4 inch to spare. So now when we join the two bottom pieces, we'll run these together onto it on the sewing machine, and that will seam. That'll provide our piece for the going the down tube and across to the seat tube, which we'll have to make next out of this piece of fabric that we've got laying here. And it's pretty much the same thing that we've done before. We just have to get it an approximate length. And we're going to make this 2 inches wide. First thing I want to do is transpose our measurements from one side to the other. And it's running just about 9 1/4. Be nice if I had all new fabric with which to work, but we're dealing with a lot of scraps here. Just a hair under 3/4 and 9/4. Normally when you're sewing you use chalk pencils. The chalk will not hold on this fabric. This is going to be 2 inches wide, so we need to make sure we've got 2 1/2, which we do. So just find a good center line. 2 3/4, that's what 1 3/8. This line's about 2 inches off from each other. This piece will sew in onto this piece, making the down tube, the piece of transition piece, and then the seat tube. And all we have left is to make a little piece on the end and the one for the top tube. We stitch these together and start preparing to put the side panels together. Make sure our lines underneath and top are lined up as good. Lift it up, trim the slack, and first parts are together. A little bit of guesstimation involved. Take and see the fabric underneath sometimes, or see your lines underneath.
Trim off my loose ends as much as I can. Now, since this one was kind of a bit of a trapezoid shape, we'll go ahead and trim that. So the bag will be wide at the front, and it'll narrow up a little bit at the back. So the seat tubes are usually a lot thinner diameter than the down tubes. Top tubes tend to be right in the middle somewhere. So now we'll have one more piece to make, actually two small more pieces to make, and we'll have basically, you know, the exposed piece of the frame bag that's actually going to touch the frame. There's a function to this machine. We can press a button and it'll actually drop the needle, which kind of holds everything in place, and you can pivot that way. And something we've not done yet is done a reverse stitch. I'm going to do one here by pressing the reverse button, and it'll run backwards. Pull the leg up. And you can see we did the stitch, and then we walked back with the stitch. It's a good way for ending things. We didn't have to do it here, but oftentimes you don't want the start or the end to be accessible, because, you know, the stitch can start working itself out. It's not a problem here. I just wanted to demonstrate that. More for Jim's benefit than anyone else. And we're right on our lines that time. White thread on black fabric really shows up nicely. We're just about ready to do our last piece. There's the piece that's going to touch the frame. A few snips here and there. So we'll try to line up our lines inside. Probably could have tacked some glue in there. The whole thing I want to do here and the only reason I'm doing this is so that when we do finally start attaching it to the part that touches the frame, I want to make sure that the fabric is nice and flat, so one piece doesn't carry more load than the other. Okay, we're going to pivot. Foot goes down. And the sewing cat's here with me. We're keeping everything taut as we do it. I'm going to figure that I've got about 1/4 of an inch there. I wish I had a light underneath it here. Lift the foot, pivot. This point and this point match. Our top point doesn't, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go ahead and match the black. Lift to pivot it. Just pull a lot of fabric out of the way to do this. And I'm actually going to have to lift out and bring everything back down. And if you'll notice, our corners here line up, although our fabric doesn't necessarily want to. But I can bring this all back together rather nicely, I think. voila, that actually came out pretty good looking, I believe. Looks like a penguin. So that's the left side. Now what we'll do is we'll get the right side made, and we'll be ready to roll with that. Like the double stitch on zippers. Now as I'm doing this, what I'm doing is I'm watching where the last seam goes in, just making sure it's running the same line as it goes past that foot. See, not all of them have that line on them. Have that white line on it, though. Trick is making sure we don't get any fabric underneath of this while we're sewing it onto there. I've done that before.
So, as you can see, we've got a completed bike bag, frame bag. There are some intermediate steps that kind of got left out, and it's mainly just because you start working on something and realize that, oh, hey, I forgot to film this. So there's a lot of intermediate steps that kind of got skipped. We didn't include everything that was done for this bike bag, this frame bag. But as you can see, we've got this frame bag, which we've got a strap here, a strap here, a strap here, and a strap here. As we'll look here in a second, we've got two places here that the bag is secured down to the bottle holder, secure points, and then we've got a strap that comes around here, and then also one that comes around this back corner. So essentially it's creating this kind of trapezoidal shape, and it's keeping everything kind of in place. And here we have a zipper It's kind of covered up, so you can put your stuff in, zip it up, and you've got something that's pretty taut. If I zip it up, I can actually put a bunch of stuff in here, and this is going to bulge out. It's made to be able to bulge out. So we've got all that there. If we actually take a look here, what we're going to see is a number of things. So one of the things that we had to do is we had to make this kind of rigid. You want kind of this side and this side and then this side to you want all of this to basically hold its form. You don't want it to kind of slop around, slouch around. So we take some of the cutting board material. It's kind of a thin plastic, but it's got somewhat of a structural strength to it. We basically took that and we kind of glued it into a width of the profile, as you can see down in here. And of course you can see where one of the two bottle holders is, and then the other one is right down there. So we basically did that material and glued it inside the bag, both on the side over here as well as the bottom, and then up on this riser. So if you actually look, you can see that it's pretty solid, so whatever I pack in there is going to go. If we look on the other side here, you can see that no zipper, it's just fabric, and it's in a pretty good place. The other thing that we did that was intermediate that you probably did not see is, like for these straps as an example, if you actually look on here, you can see that there's some clear tape, and it's a protector to keep the carbon frame from getting damaged and scuffed and nicked and whatever else when you have these straps on. Because as you're riding along, stuff's going to be moving, it's going to be shaking, these are going to be moving around. That motion over time is going to cause, scratches and nicks and, other kind of friction and stuff. So, put tape on all the places that could potentially kind of rub and scuff and nick up. So, like anytime where you have a strap, we've got corresponding tape that goes in place for that. Anytime we have part of the frame, which I'll show you here in a second. Anytime we have part of the frame, like this part here and then this part here, that's basically resting on the frame, we're going to put some tape that is going to basically protect the frame. And since we were doing, since we did this bag, there were a couple of other things that actually kind of came into play. Things that weren't explicitly bag focused, but maybe other parts of the bike. So like as you can see right now, the bike is stripped down in the back, it's stripped down in the front, I have no fork right now. It kind of looks like I've kind of taken a step back from where we were previously. And part of that is this bag has taken a couple weeks to get done just because being busy with work, and there's a lot of little things that have to go into play with this. So there's a number of things that have taken place. One of the things is the rims. I have mounted the Shimano, their Ice Tech, I think it's R486 brake rotors. So I've got those on there. I've got one there, and then there's one up here behind this other bike, my Giant. So I've gotten those mounted on. It's just a matter of putting it back on the bike. Of course, I'm going to have to remount the brakes, the brake parts and everything. Of course, as you can see here, there's no fork currently, and if I actually look right down here, you'll see that I've got this fork with all kinds of blue on it. And what that is I've got this masked off. If you actually look at it in the light, you'll see that it's not black, but it's gray. So in order for this to kind of match with the bike, this fork is going to be black for the background, and then there are going to be two accenting colors of red and white, just like with the bike. So hopefully this weekend the plan is to start hitting this at least with black, get that coat on, then we'll get some white, and we'll get some black, or not black, but we'll also get some red, kind of in that order, and it'll be masked to have some kind of a pattern, which I haven't really decided on yet, but we'll hit that so that we can get this back on the bike. So that's one thing that's going on right now. The other thing, which you can see down here, I recently received my vinyl decals, so I kind of have some accenting for the bike. So on one side I've got 2010, 2013, 2015, and then if we actually turned this and we look, you're going to see that I have 3 more on this side. So 1934, 1938, and 1961. Anyone that's familiar with this bike, they know kind of that it's being customized for a certain purpose, kind of a certain theme, and the numbers have significance, and I think as I go along further, it'll kind of make more sense. But so I've got this kind of accents on. I'd probably get some more vinyl decaling, which may go on here. I don't want to over clutter the bike, but definitely want to kind of customize it and make it my own. So another thing I have, which we've actually looked at before, I believe, is I've got some different accenting tape. I've got some narrow red, I think it's 1/8 of an inch. I think this is a 1/2 inch red. I've got a little bit of the 1/8 inch in yellow, and then kind of the same in white. So I've got these different accenting tapes. It's way more than what I'm going to need, but if the future ever, if there's ever another bike or something where I'm going to need it, I have it then. So maybe a little bit of accenting on there. I'm not entirely sure what yet, but there's another option. So that's kind of where we are. There were a number of steps that went into this bag, which I'll just really quick summarize. And so now we have a good working bike frame bag, which I can zip up. I was actually discussing last night, may actually make a little bag that can go down here to hold things like pump, things like that. But as far as this bag is concerned, first thing we did is we took some cardboard, made a template, kind of got it roughly outlined, figured out where we needed it, got kind of an idea of where straps would need to go. So then we got that template in there and made sure it kind of fit where we needed. Try to keep it kind of above the front chain ring. Of course, somewhat above, at least as far as the straps are concerned, above the front derailleur. So we got that marked. Got our placement for the different straps, the holes. We made 4 different panels. We made different width panels for this backside, this bottom, this riser, and then the top. That was done in black. We made 2 panels that were more or less the same size as our template, except one side is done a little bit different because it's got the zipper in it. So the back side, we just had 1 panel that we then stitched into our 4 black panels. And then we took the white panel and stitched those together with the zipper, a working zipper that basically, goes almost to the frame on both sides. Then we went inside and we actually glued with some rubber cement that material that I was talking about, the cutting board material, to kind of sturdy up the bottom and the sides and kind of stabilize that. And we mounted it to the bike. Of course, before we even did that, she had to verify the length of the straps we needed, stitch those onto the bike bag. All of these straps that go around the bike. Then we got it mounted, and here we are. So it was a long kind of 2-week process. A lot of things that had to happen right. Some things that we kind of excluded because otherwise this video might be very, very long. But that's the bike bag. Kind of on to the next step. If you got any questions, comments, whatever, please feel free to leave a comment on this YouTube channel, this particular video. I'll be sure to get back to you on that. July 10th is approaching very fast. Got almost 2 months left, and can't wait to get up there to Banff and kind of make a journey for myself. So look for some more updates coming soon. Got the fork coming up. Got some more decaling. Probably even some more some bike packing trips, some bike packing weekends coming up. to really kind of get a feel for the bike and kind of this whole bike packing experience. So that's it for now. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.